Yeah, the walk-up property, sure. Yeah, you've got the walk-up property, the Sudbury Valley walk-up property, which is a great area for walking and just the natural surroundings back there, and it's got some brooks and small ponds, and it's a great. I jog through there pretty regularly, so it's a terrific area. And what we're trying to do is figure out whether the people in Westborough are interested in setting aside Cedar Swamp as a natural resource and potentially up in the future, trying to see if that area can also provide a lot of let's say passive recreation for people by setting up woods trails and setting up elevated walkways so that we can actually have a little bit of access into the swamp, because one of the largest landowners in the swamp is the Metropolitan District Commission, and I know that they're particularly interested in allowing the public to have access to the extent that they can take in the surroundings out there.
That's why I'm asking the question, because it seems to me that what we would be happy is doing a swamp and doing it this part is to take the Cedar Swamp and legally use the Peachtree Railroad for expanding.
So that's exactly what we're working with.
We have a neighbor park in Westborough, it's a small town. We have so many local fields and woods,
That's exactly our point, and we've since found that it also is an area where there's 4 state-listed rare species, and that's something that I think it's an asset to the town, and something that I'd like to think that we'd be interested in taking care of, for off into the future. So that's the question that we're posing, and that we're posing at town meeting, and we've set up a mechanism where Westborough can actually try to take some control of the destiny of Cedar Swamp, and that's with some local zoning, so that we have local control and we can't be overridden by friends in Boston necessarily. We want the decisions to be made here in Westborough and not Boston or elsewhere. What we've put on the town warrant, it's article number 26 this year at the town meeting, is an article to establish what we call a critical resource protection district, and what this would do is to overlay the existing zoning and provide certain restrictions that essentially establish that the only way further development can take place in Cedar Swamp is if that development is done in such a way that it protects the values of Cedar Swamp. And we think it makes a tremendous amount of sense. We're essentially taking an area that the state has already designated an area of critical environmental concern and just setting up local custody, if you will, of that resource. And we'll be there at the planning board meeting next Wednesday night at 7:30, where there'll be a public hearing on the article, and then we'll be there on the town floor, on the town meeting floor as well. Yeah.
Is that open to the public?
Yeah, the planning board absolutely, and of course the town meeting as well, and I'll welcome.
This is a town meeting that every person has a vote and it's representative.
Right, every registered voter has a vote.
Yes. Is this one of the things that the state house is really active in, or just the time that the Conrail
What's going on there is the land was zoned residential, and Conrail is using a mechanism that the state allows that if it can be found out of the public convenience and welfare, the State Department of Public Utilities can come in and override your local zoning and provide Conrail the opportunity to double their railroad yard. So the two parties that have taken Conrail on are the town of Westborough and the Sudbury Valley trustees, and SVT of course has spent many thousands of dollars fighting with Conrail on this issue, and we've done a lot of things locally as well related to wetlands laws and such. But that brings up one of the points of the zoning article. What we found is that the wetlands laws, and I'd be interested in Betsy's opinion on this, they're helpful, but they aren't the final solution. In other words, it doesn't give you the protection that you need. What we've seen happen is we've got a volunteer conservation commission, and they go up and they do absolutely the best they can. The industries come in with lawyers, $200 an hour lawyers, who've spent their whole lives, or let's say part of their careers, finding ways for their clients, and really a very good piece of change doing it, finding ways for their clients to get through these wetlands laws. They come in with consultants who will find a way to say that wetlands are not wetlands, and that's a big piece of the problem that we've had in Westborough, where we've gone back on the same land and found a complete acre of wetlands on a 20-acre site that was never found somehow by the Commonwealth consultants, and now the Commonwealth consultants are admitting that yes, these were actually wetlands. So we've had quite a time here. And all the more reason that it's important, we think, to establish local control and deal with our local destiny here with the planning board as the arbiter, and not try to rely on the state, where all of a sudden it's out of our control and meetings are held during the day when we're all working, and we've just lost access to the process. Another new what? Well, it has. Some would argue that it already has. This has been publicized all the way to the New York Times, the Washington Post, Channel 5. We've kicked up a little bit of a fuss, I think.
The DPU has not yet overridden the town zoning, and we're hoping that we won't. They argue public good, and one of the strong arguments that SVT made, and that the town also made in countering that, was that Cedar Swamp has major public values through the functions that it serves, that also are a major public good and that are designated, and that should be recognized and protected and considered in making the decision about the value of more rail transport. I think everybody recognizes that rail transport is a very good thing, but probably not in a site like this, unless you've got much better arguments than you've come up with so far. So we're hoping very much that the DPU will recognize that the public good is served by keeping Cedar Swamp a wetland, and that it won't go any further, but we don't know yet. Yes?
Who owns the land?
The land in Cedar Swamp is owned by a variety of different people. The NBC owns a lot of it. Conroy owns some part of it. There are a number of other private landowners, I believe. About 200 landowners, I'm told.
There's a real problem when we try to talk about public good about private things.
Well, except the Wetlands Act, the wetland laws, both the state and federal laws, and our laws that protect water in general, recognize that there are certain resources that belong to the public as a whole, and they say you can use your land for something, but you can't use it for something that will damage these broader public interests. And so that has been upheld all the way up to the Supreme Court, that there are certain public interests that override the private right to make as much profit as you can. And so that you're right, that people have a right to use their land up to a certain point, but only up to that point. Any other questions? Yes?
One of your questions in here, whether they impact on Westborough's farmers. The answer is that they're part of 10 of the provisions of the act. I had a general impression that, for instance, Harvey's farm would
The question was in the literature we've passed out on again, getting back to the article, that we have exempted farms, active farms, from the provisions of the article. And the gentleman said that he understood that places like Harvey's farm would fall under the provisions of the article. We have exempted farmers, active farms, and that's consistent with a lot of the other provisions of the wetlands laws. These are the people who are keeping the land open, keeping the land unencumbered, if you will, by office buildings and the like. And certain of these provisions could make it impossible for them to earn their livelihood. So we found it made a lot more sense to exempt them unless, let's say, a subdivision plan was filed. Up until the time that subdivision plan was filed, they would be considered exempt from the provisions of the article. So I think it's right. Yeah, that was the important consideration. But I guess, Betsy, you could probably comment on how farmers have typically been treated in the wetlands law.
Yeah, the wetlands laws have also, as Mike mentioned, they are exempt under the Wetlands Act. They do not have to file if it is an active farm, and the land can have lain fallow for 3 of the last 5 years. But if somebody wants to take a wetland and turn it into agriculture, then they have to file under the Wetlands Protection Act. And you can still convert a wetland to agricultural purposes, provided that you maintain the water regime, the groundwater levels, and things like that. But you do need to file and obtain a permit from the Conservation Commission. So the farming is treated differently than most other types of activities in wetlands because it's recognized that, again, this is sort of a competing public good. Being able to raise agricultural produce here in a state like Massachusetts is an extremely valuable function and one we want to encourage. And also agriculture does keep land open. There are concerns about pesticides and how that works, especially when you're in the water supply area, but that's something that really hasn't been addressed as well. Anything else?
If they put in a big parking lot there and run trucks, run a lot of heavy big trucks, they're going to use the Westborough highways. We're already having problems with traffic on the roads, and we're not making a hardship for the rural because they stay with themselves. They do have some island sites and they get utilized, but I imagine it's because they could get this property cheaper than they could buy the other property.
That has been one of the things that's been discussed, I think, and is continuing to be discussed. The economics of it is part of it, certainly. Yes. Yes.
I think that one of the things that people here in the world may not realize is that the upcoming town meeting is going to be one of the most important so far as maintenance of wetlands and open space is concerned that we have ever had. Now, the DPU state to this has got a wonderful reputation of being deaf and on the air and listening to the 100, $200 an hour riders on the operator. I don't know what to do about that, sort of bombing the State House or something. Let's not do that. But we can get together at the town meeting and vote on this article, 26, and put that across in a big way. What I know is that in the last 15 years, the town has voted to ban these things, and in every case, the DPU must come in and overrule the town's direct vote. Everything on the west side of Flanders Road has been approved against the vote of the town. That's one of the most heavily occupied sections of town so far as warehouses and factories is concerned. But it's all been against the vote of the town. The town voted to maintain the residential status of that area. Agricultural, whatever it may have been at the time. When it comes to residents of the village here, if they're not already registered to vote, but the kids say get busy and get registered when the time comes and show up at the town meeting.